This week on Conspiracy Files. Have you ever heard of the Freemasons? I just started looking into this group. Did you know that they helped NASA fake the moon landing? These people are all over the place. I bet you don't even know in your town or your city, they have lodges, temples, and you probably don't even know they're there. Why are they there? Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is Lance. So today, I thought that I'd have a little bit of fun with this project. Here it is. This is a Masonic lodge. Just to clear the air here, I happen to know a few Freemasons, and I don't think that there's a whole bunch of wild conspiracies going on behind there. You know, they seem like really great people. You know, I've had dealings with them, and they just seem like normal people to me. I don't really believe that they're part of the Illuminati who are running the world, you know, or who caused the assassination of JFK, or on and on and on and on. Although I wasn't there. This actually was a difficult project for me. I had quite a few interesting things that I had to go back and fix, but overall I think I'm happy with it. It turned out pretty well. It's kind of a cool design. I kind of modeled it similarly from an actual lodge somewhere in the States. I can't remember exactly, it was in the States, but it was a beautiful building, and as soon as I saw it I thought, you know what, I think that's the one that I want to try to kind of build. So here it is. Why don't we light some incense and we'll get to building. Okay, here we are. We're starting the building. We're starting the actual structure itself. And right now, this is what I'm working on, is the front of the building. The front of the building has 3 different levels to it, 3 different dimensions. It came out really interesting. It looked really good. And putting them together was a little bit of a difficulty, but it wasn't too bad, really. It came out really good. And just going to put on the side walls of the structure, connecting it to the front of it. Here you can see the front done. There's a couple of different levels there, a couple of different dimensions, and that was pretty easy to put these side walls on, literally just hot gluing them to the front, making a square. So it wasn't that bad at all as far as that goes. Then I moved on to hot gluing for what I wanted to be was 4 different triangles to make a pyramid structure at the top. Well, that didn't quite work out the way I had planned. The dimensions weren't exact, so what I had to do, as you can see here, I had to make some slight modifications to 2 of the triangles, but it came out not too bad at all, kind of a pyramid structure. Then I moved on to cutting out all the windows. This here is the window that I had, the stained glass God symbol that I had printed off just on some translucent translucent sheet, and printed off a God symbol that the Masons usually have. Here's some brickwork that I did, large brickwork on the bottom there, you can see it there. That was quite fun, you know, having different size bricks there, and then I just finished it off with a little bit more texture there. That's my handy dandy bead roller texture. So there's pretty much the outside base structure ready to go. It looks pretty good. The stonework came out pretty well. I liked it a lot. And then I started moving on with putting in the door, a couple of columns, and that big large stone header over top of the columns, which I thought looked really interesting. And here, just putting in some window sills, I guess. They were textured to make it look like stone. And moving on to the walls, texturing the walls. This is the brickwork. So this is definitely the interesting and fun little trick of using the tin foil to texture it. And so there I just laid it out and glued it on. Now as you can see, the brickwork I had cut into it with a razor and then just used a pencil to make the lines a little bit more, to make them pop more. So then I cut out a bunch of strips of foam and I started to get to work to make some benches. I think I made a total of 12 of these benches. And it wasn't really bad at all. There's literally a couple of pieces, made some wood grain into them, cut up a couple of toothpicks for the bottom for the supports, and then just glued it all together as you can see here. So I think I made 12 of those. Then I moved on and I started working on, I'm not even quite sure what to call this. Like I know the center, I shouldn't say I know, I believe the center chair is the Worshipful Master's chair. And this was kind of like, a recessed seating area, not really an altar I would think, but more of a throne type idea for the center chair. And as you can see in the close-up here, it is recessed, so the chair is actually going to sit back into there. And I just made some embellishments, with sun rays on the top of that. And obviously just glued it to the platform there, right at the front of the building, or pardon me, the back of the building. And then I took just a paintbrush and I tried to do a little bit of wood grain on the floor there. Didn't turn out too bad, but I think it could have been better. Next, moving on to painting all the white squares. So I painted the floor, that center area, black, and then moved on and painted each individual white square there, which turned out not too bad. It was quite a challenge to get them all perfect, but we got it done. And then we moved on, just painted a base gray color here, kind of like a primer for this raised platform for where the chairs sit. And then used some sticky paper border, I think it is, to go around the checkered floor area, just to give it a border and give it a little bit more of a pop. I think it worked out really well. I like the way it looked. And here we are. We're starting to glue down the benches in the actual lodge. The 12 of them, I had to respace them, but they turned out pretty good. The benches went in pretty good, not a big deal there. And moving on, now this here is kind of like an altar for the center of the floor. I carved it out of foam, made it like a wood grain, had a little bit of a triangle emblem in the front there. And that's just gonna sit in the center of the floor between two candlesticks. And then moving on, started to make the pillars for either side of the center chair. And this is just some foam tubing, some foam squares really, and then all I did was I glued some large beads to the top, and that turned out better than I expected, to be honest. Actually, I didn't quite know how I was going to make these pillars. I tried a couple of different ways and I wasn't happy with them, so this is what I went with, and I think it turned out not too bad. And then here I am just placing everything, the two pillars on either side of the center chair, and the rest of the platform I'm just going to put the other chairs on and see where I like it the best. And I think that looks great to me. I thought it looked really good. Putting that center chair right in that special little piece that I made, thought it looked really good. So here basically is the inside of the lodge done. I'm just going to do a quick dry brush on everything. You can see the candlesticks just made out of toothpicks and painted. The altar in the very middle of it, the chairs, the pillars, everything is in its place. And like I said, just doing a quick dry brush. Now this was probably one of my favorite parts to the build. This is UV resin inside a globe mold, half a mold, and just curing it at this point right now. What I wanted to do was make a chandelier. So I did this resin, as you can see there, in the mold, cured it, and then started painting the outside of it black lines. Now I did this a couple of times to make sure that the black lines were really, really bold, really stood out, because I didn't want them to be see-through when I started painting on the inside. And here you can see kind of the lattice work that I did with the black paint. So the black paint is on the outside, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start painting with multiple different colors the insides, trying to stay within the lines, which it turned out didn't really matter because the black worked perfectly. So they're just finishing up the yellow. I thought that turned out really good. If I make this again, which I probably will, make some of these chandelier stained glass ideas, I will do things a little bit differently because again, with experience, things are gonna be better. All right, moving on, I just started to make some picture frames. So what I did was I printed off a couple of old pictures of Masons and just cut some very simple wood frames, textured the wood frames, and I put the pictures behind it, glued them in. I wanted to have these hanging on the walls because I noticed in pictures of the Masonic lodges there were quite a few pictures of multiple things, but a lot of old Masons. So I wanted to have a couple of these on the wall just to kind of make it a little bit more authentic, and they actually turned out not too bad. Now granted, they were just wooden frames with wood texture, painted them brown. That's really all I did to them. But I'm actually pretty glad because they really helped out the inside of the lodge. I was actually worried about what I was going to do on the walls on the inside of the lodge. Here I'm just painting it like a buttercream color, and you know, this is where I put the pictures on the walls as well, and I also did some wainscoting on the bottom of the walls too. So moving on, what this part here is doing the shingles. Now this took a long time, but it turned out really good. I'm actually quite happy with the roof. It's kind of funny because in a way, to me, it almost looks like lines of whipped cream. I don't know why that came to my head, but it did. So that turned out really well. And here just finishing up some static grass and putting a pathway in front of the lodge. So this turned out, again, this turned out pretty good. This was pretty basic, just threw some static grass on there. And then I got to painting the lodge. So I used 3 different colors here. I used a different color for the stonework at the bottom, and a different color for the main brick of the main building, and then the roof was a different color. And I used kind of like another buttercream type color for the walls, and I thought that was really interesting because it's going to make it a real dirty kind of look when I black wash it. So that was cool. And then the top was kind of a chocolate brown. And then going to painting the details. So started with the door here. You know, this door, I wanted this door. This doesn't really fit with the project, I gotta say, but I like these doors. They're kind of like an old stone castle kind of looking door. I just personally like it, and I went with it. So here I am painting it up. And then here's the black wash stage. This is a fun one. I like this black wash stage. This just makes it look horrible to begin with. As I've said in another video before, you know, it's just, you don't know what it's gonna look like. But it turned out pretty cool. And moving on, started with the dry brushing. So I kind of did an opposite thing with the roof. It was a fairly light color to begin with, and so even after the black wash, it turned out pretty pretty light, so I did a darker dry brush. And then after that darker dry brush, I did a lighter dry brush, and then it really popped and turned out well. And there's my boy Archer in the background there. So here again, I used 3 different colors to dry brush: the roof, the side walls, and the stone. That's what 3 different colors, and it turned out pretty good. And then moving on to getting the outside done, I glued some bushes to the side just to make everything look real pretty. Everything to have a place for itself. The bushes in the front helped a lot. I was wondering what to do on the outside. I was thinking maybe have a path around the sides. And I didn't like that idea because the actual platform, the foundation, wasn't big enough. So I just went with some bushes to kind of break up the side of the building. And I'm glad I did that because that turned out really well. It helped finish the building. So this is pretty much getting near to the end of the build. It was a fun build, and yet you're gonna see here coming up right away, you're gonna see the finished product. And I really hope you enjoyed this build because I spent a lot of time on this one. This one threw me for a loop a couple of times. I had to go back and fix some things like I said, but it was actually quite fun. So here's the last little bit of putting the bushes on the outside and fixing things. And I appreciate everybody's time coming to watch this video. And I hope you'll come again next time because we got more projects in the works for you. Have a great day, everybody. We'll talk to you later.